Hi, my name is rcdimalanta, and I am a registered nurse. And today's topic is more about new nurses in a sense. And I know a lot of people, in a sense, they would think about like new nurses as like, oh, um, fuck. Okay, that didn't work out. Anyways, so a lot of new nurses ask me this question, and I think it probes me at the same time because it makes me think differently about how this person is really thinking. And so just kind of some insight, if you work in a place that has a lot of turnover and you have new nurses that are coming in, I could tell you that right now, I could pretty much figure you out within like the first couple of minutes of meeting you. Now, for some people, it's all good, and I can see the vibe that you're trying to do, and that you're very genuine. As some people are just like, well, like I know that this is just a job for you, or this is maybe you're just trying to try this out, and maybe it may not work out for you, but that's totally fine. Whatever it is you want to do in your life, I don't really care, and it's totally fine. But however, I do get this one question that new nurses come to me and ask, and they say this, and I know a lot of people are pretty guilty of this, and I can't say I was part of that process of asking this question, but for me, it was more about like what I was going to do rather than sulking and trying to figure out like what others were doing, right? That's question. That's basically how my mindset was. Anyways, a lot of new nurses, they ask the question, how long did it take you to get comfortable in your unit? And in my mind, right, think about if someone really asked you that question. If they really asked you that question, they said, you know what? I want to know how long it really did take you to get comfortable in your unit. Well, it's different. Everyone's going to be different. Everyone works at different paces, and I can't really say that. However, if you really want to know the answer was about 2 to 3 months. Literally, after I got off an orientation, it was pretty much chill. I pretty much got off. I'm like, oh, this is pretty much easy, right? However, I had prior experience to that. Was working in a skilled nursing facility, and I had my time management down, and so everything else became pretty quick. But the thing is, when you ask that question, how long did it take you to get comfortable in your unit? Now, my question back to you is, how does that question serve you, and how does my answer serve you, right? I think like it's like a mindset shift that people don't really see, and I want you to understand that you're trying to compare yourself, right? Or trying to give yourself to release some anxiety, or to try to get yourself to think like, oh, maybe I could do it in that time frame as well, right? You're trying to gauge how safe, or basically trying to see how fast you can speed up this process. But in a sense, everyone's going to work at these different paces, and you have to understand that that's just going to be how it is, right? Now, one of the things that comes to my mind when people ask that question of, how long did it take to get comfortable in your unit? What goes to my mind is, are you trying to be great, or are you trying to play great, right? So, because the thing is, like, my thing is, a lot of nurses, they come to the nursing field and they do a half-assed job. And a lot of the times that I see it, it's like you don't do enough to really understand what is really going on. And this is the reason why there's such a difference in how we work as nurses, right? And how you can see like the different tiers of nurses, like a top tier nurse versus like a lower tier nurse, or someone that who really loves to do what they do and love to interact with patients, versus someone who just wants to be there and get a check. So those are the things that like I'm just like, I don't know if this is going to be a good fit for you in a sense, because this is definitely not the unit to be doing that in. When people say that question, you should really say to the person, if you are working at in any organization, is, what did you do to become great, right? That's the actual true question you should be asking, right? And let me explain to you why. Because most nurses, they'll be like, okay, I want to be great, but I don't know how to be great. And I don't know what habits I need to become great. A lot of nurses, they have this mentality of like, I just want to get in. I want to be comfortable. Cool. It's not about being uncomfortable. It's always about being uncomfortable. And it's about pushing yourself. This is why nursing is so great, because it forces you to be in such an area where you have to push yourself, right? You have to push yourself. Ain't no one gonna do it, and you're gonna be put in all these situations that you really don't like to be in, and that's the best part about growth. That's when you can actually see like, man, the problems I had before, I was such a bitch, and now I'm actually someone that's really good. However, when I meet someone and they tell me, I want to be a great nurse, but I only want to work twice a week, I can't tell you how frustrating that is, right? Because it's like, It's like real unrealistic. It's like I want to be rich, but I don't want to put in work. It's like how's that? I don't get that. Like that mindset is total shit. Like if you want to be great, there's a lot of ways to do it, but you have to understand your habits on upon doing it, right? So a lot of things that that people do is they say like, oh yeah, I want to do this, I want to do that, I want to do this. It's like, what? So, and my question to them is like, so what are you doing to get that? What's your like, do you have any goals right now? What's your goals? What's your like 3 month goal or like your half year goal? Where do you see yourself right now? And they'll tell me like, oh yeah, yeah, I definitely want to be at this, but I want to be a nurse practitioner. It's like, well, if you want to be a nurse practitioner, you need to get on it now, right? Because it only gets harder now, from then on. Now, if you said I want to be great, what do I have to do to become great? You need to work full time. You need to get exposed. You need to be a slave, not necessarily a slave, but you need to be someone who's going to take the brunt force, brunt work of this whole unit for a good amount of time. So you get exposed to so many things, and it's important to get exposed to so many things because of the fact that you want this to be as repetitive as possible. Now, when you start to see diagnoses, it becomes like clockwork. You understand it. You can put things together, and then you can start to venture off into more like deeper things within that diagnosis and stuff like that, and what interventions you can actually do, right? And that's where it becomes you start to love the process of becoming or being a nurse, because the fact is that you can grow so much in a short amount of time if you're willing to put in the work to do so. Now, a lot of people don't have these habits built up, but I can tell you at the end of this video, there's some habits I'm going to tell you about, or some things that I suggest to you that you can do to help you become a better person, or better in general as a nurse, or whatever it is, right? As a new nurse, you should be asking clarification questions instead of patho questions. I swear to God, like most of the time that people come up to me and they ask me a patho question, it's more about, did you look that up? Like, can you explain to me DKA? It's like I can tell you right now, you can go on YouTube, DKA, they get a lot explained way more in depth on the molecular level, right, or the cellular level, better than I can explain it, right? And it's in detail, it's in pictures. I don't have no pictures for you, so I can't really do anything for you. But at the same time, you have it on YouTube. Now, if you ask me that question as a preceptee, I'd be like, well, yeah, I am going to defer that from you, and I'm going to tell you to go look it up, because I expect you, right? It's not about, so I think a lot of people also get this wrong, is that like, they're like, well, I expect my preceptor to give me the answer. No, bitch, I'm not supposed to give you the answer. I'm supposed to build you into a better nurse to find these answers on your own. You have to be able to do that you have to be able to do that. It's just, in general, that's how it should be. You should be able to find this. You should be self-sufficient. You should be efficient. You know what I'm saying? So like, you rely less on other nurses, and you rely on your own independent skill, right, to be someone. And now, when it comes down to the point, if you need an answer, it's not like, oh, I'm gonna be a bitch and stand here. No, I'm gonna go look this shit up, and I'm not gonna stop until I find that. And that's how I feel about this type of questions, right? So if you ask me like, what, this is my patient's like tachypnic right now, respiratory rates in the 30s, going higher oxygen requirements, and he had a DVT before on his right leg, and it's swelling up, and all of a sudden now he just started to become tachypnic. What would we be thinking right now? What, is pulmonary embolism something that could be possible? Hell yeah. Now talk to the doctor. Yeah, right? Because what you would rather want to do is to show another nurse what you know, and then have them clarify exactly what you know, right? Now that makes more sense rather than being like, oh yeah, can you, oh, how does a PE happen? It's like, dude, you can look that shit up. Don't bother with fucking questions like that. Like, those are the type of things where it's like, if there's something that you can look it up, but you can't look up like, oh yeah, how your patient really looks, or like anything like, because every person's different, and that's how I feel about that. Damn. Okay. So another thing that I would say for new nurses is this, right? If you were a new nurse and you asked me the question, right, how do I become great? Right? And I'm going to tell you straight up, I'm not the greatest nurse either, right? for hands down. There are a lot of great nurses out there, and there's a lot of great nurses that are a lot better than me, right? However, I know what I've done to this point to earn my stripes in my own unit. And what I can tell you is this, right? For as a nurse, there are a lot of people that want you to be self-sufficient, like I said before. Now, the things that you can do for yourself is this, right? There are a lot of resources out there on the internet that are never utilized. And it's funny because I think like 99% of the time when I ask a nurse, what are you doing to become better? None of them are using like, oh, I'm reading about this, or I'm studying about this, or I'm doing audiobooks. Like literally, I think for my first year in nursing, I literally med crammed audiobooks, right? Or audios, or YouTube. You could YouTube med cram, but basically you YouTube med cram, you could study. But if I was not studying, if I wasn't able to study that day, I would audiobook that subject on the way to work, and I would listen to it also on the way back. And the reason being is because you want to gain as much information, right? Because you want to be able to apply what you know. And if you're able to apply what you know and then explain that whole process, like say like DKA to a patient and stuff like that, so they can understand it on like the 5th grader level or whatever like that, then you understand that subject for yourself, and now that's a part of you. You earned that, right? That is like the greatest thing to happen. Now, for other medications or anything like that, right, or in general, like other things, I mean, use UpToDate, use your, your IV drug guidelines, look all that stuff up. If you don't know a medication, look it up. Like those are a lot of things that a lot of people just don't really get into. And it's just like, you need to really get into that. It's, you can't be lazy. You can't let up. A lot of people, because the fact is that when you get into nursing, it's like, okay, I made it. No, you didn't make it yet. Let me be real with you there. Okay. You made it here. You made it inside into the unit, but now the unit's a different game. You're always going to be chasing something, and you need to understand that part. Find a mentor. I think I had one of the best mentors in general. Her name is Suzanne O. Anyways, she was a resource nurse, and she was probably like one of the best resource nurses I've ever come across. And the fact that she trained me a certain way was amazing. She would ask me open-ended questions. She would get my brain to think differently. And that's basically what you want. In order to become better, you need to find someone better who has been through it and can guide you in a certain way, right? So those are the things where it's like, you need to find a mentor. Don't try to think that you can do everything on your own. You will be able to do everything on your own. But the fact is, if you want to become great and do it faster, you need to find a mentor that can guide you a lot better. That's just in general, right? And the other thing is, take opportunities that other people won't. Shit. Anyways, other people won't. And the reason why I say that is because a lot of people are scared because they don't know. But if you have someone like, you want to try this, you want to try an IV, I swear on my unit, no matter what it was, if someone was like, hey, you want to try an IV? Hell yeah, I'm gonna try an IV. Even though I knew, even working at the sniff, I could even hit a vein that was popping up, and it would be like a 16 gauge that you can literally get into that vein. I still wouldn't be able to do it. And at that moment when I was in the sniff, I was like, man, one day I'm gonna master these, right? But that was my mindset. One day I'm gonna master these. But then at the sniff, you don't really put in IVs. In the hospital, that's the one thing, it's one of the skills that you really need. And one of the things is like, I found a mentor that was able to show me how to do an IV. And from there, I kept on practicing. I'm practicing and 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 fucking practicing. You know what I'm saying? And that's how I got really good at IVs. That's how I got really good at blood stick pokes. And, I was trained that way. That it just, you learn to become that person. And then you have like, the titas asking you to do an IV for you, right? And it's the point where like, we stopped calling on the resource nurses to come put IVs. And usually I was called most of the time to do an IV, and I was able to transfer that to someone else. And you want to duplicate that, right? But yeah, these are my tips for new nurses and stuff like that. Hope you enjoyed it, and subscribe and like and leave a comment. If there's anything else you want me to go over, that'd be great. Leave it down below and I will get back to it. Follow. Peace.